Mossy Lawler, elite player development manager, coach with Connacht. Elite player, I realised on the website today. Is that correct?
Officer.
Not just any
Y-
players now, just the elite ones.
Yeah. Of course.
How are you getting on? How's COVID-19 isolation treating you now that you're normally, I suppose, an outdoors person, night 24/7 with work?
Yeah, it's certainly different. I suppose some people that really know me will say I take the social distancing very, very well. Uh, but I suppose the daddy daycare, not so much. My wife is still working full time, so I'm on duty with the two boys, 4 and 6. So as you can imagine, it's a handful around the house. I'm sure every dad that's maybe listened to this can feel our pain. But look, on the other side of things, it gives me great quality time with them that I normally don't have. So, and then from a personal point of view, look, we're safe. The virus hasn't come near, I suppose, our doorstep yet. So, thankfully for that, and long may that continue.
Tell me about the purpose of this is coaching insights and just have a chat with coaches about different things in their career. Tell me, I know you a long time. I know you're a coaching pathway. For maybe the people that don't, like, when was the first time you coached, and then maybe when was the first time you decided this could be for me?
I think rugby always kind of was my pathway. It's certainly not what I say to the kids now that I'm talking to, because I suppose the biggest lesson I learned throughout my career was I never really educated myself, Dan. I put everything into rugby, and to my detriment when I retired. And it's a lesson that I speak, or a story that I'll tell to the kids, when we are speaking facts. But rugby was always, I suppose, what I wanted to do, and where I wanted to go. So coaching was always going to be probably that next progression for me. When did it really hit home? Um, Probably when I lost my contract with Munster. Tony McGann took me on, or asked me to come on as video analyst with him, the following season, and I did it for 3 to 4 months. And to be honest, it was the worst 3 to 4 months of my life, purely because I still had to grow to play, and I still wanted to play. So, but from that, and seeing how Tony worked, and seeing his work ethic, and his love for rugby and the detail, I suppose, it's something I picked up from him. But it's something that I probably found myself that I was actually okay at, and I was actually good at it. So, um, funnily enough, I left the job. I actually went to England for another year, but then got injured. So when I came back from England, that's when coaching really probably started for me. I retired from professional rugby, and then I was looking for my next venture. Um, I did 4 years with Art Skull, 4 successful enough years, two junior cup campaigns, and two senior cup campaigns. And meanwhile, I was given a handout with the Munster 18s, 19s, and 20s. So I was getting my hands dirty. I was getting my hands in as much experience as I could, while also playing with Shannon. So doing a bit of coaching there, as well as playing. So from that point of view, when I did retire from rugby, which comes back to my education path, I was actually unemployed for 3 years, until Bose came in with an opportunity for me to come in with the academy as their academy manager in the college. And I jumped at the chance. Won it, gave me, I suppose, the pathway to go along more where I wanted to achieve to, but put me instead for, I suppose, the job that I'm in now, which is working with the Connacht Academy.
Yeah, so that's the pathway that you took. You just say a lot of hard work in there. Similar enough to Mike Prendergast, who we spoke on episode 1 of this, that you have to put in the hard yards. There's no substitute for hard work when it comes to coaching. It just doesn't happen straight off for the majority of people. Tell me then about Connacht. What's the week like in Connacht Fee, without getting into too much specifics, like what's the week like for an academy coach? Because it is a long waiting game with these guys. I'm sure they arrive in and they're ready to go. They have all the gear, mad for road. I see you smile. I'll come back to the gear in a minute, but how do you plan that week? How do you keep them interested and occupied?
Our weeks differ. Our weeks change. Our weeks they're never the same. So it depends on, are we in a club week? Do guys have AIL at the end of the week? Do they have follow-up AIL the following week? Are we in an Eagles week? And then it depends on how many players the senior pros want to come up to their session. So our weeks vary. Ultimately, they will always do 4 rugby sessions a week. Monday, Tuesday, they have Wednesday off for personal development day. Thursday, a technical hit in the morning, and then Friday, depending on whether they're playing or not, the RTP guys may come in. So from a rugby point of view, they have rugby every day, but that's not where the work happens. The work happens off the field. So because the academy is such a individual based program, it's not so much team specific. These guys all have their individual plans, their individual work on. So their main work happens off the field: video analysis, one-on-one reviews, their one-on-one skill sessions themselves with their coaches. So it's a varied week. It's an interesting week. It's never ever the same, but for the academy lads, it's fairly action-packed.
I smiled there when I mentioned gear. We've spoken before about you had actually been capped by Munster, I think, before you even got was it a hoodie out of the boot of a car? Am I correct? Or a fleece?
Yeah, we had to earn our crust back then. Certainly had to.
So I'm saying, famously playing with Munster, you obviously involved in squads, big characters, big coaches. Then you went to Wasps, you sampled a different, I suppose, atmosphere and culture as well. From the coaches that you played under, do you take bits from them?
100% in relation to philosophy and stuff, is it?
Anything, just personal skills, engaging with players. I mean, everyone learns. Coaches are sometimes called magpies, pick bits from good coaches and not from others. Well, what did you take from the best ones?
I took something from everybody. I suppose the 3 main characters that probably were part of my progression and my step up through the ranks were Declan Kidney, Alan Gaffney, and Tony McGann. So like, just take Declan for example, his psychological skills, his ability to put team structure in place, his ability to, I suppose, set the scene and set team culture from Tony McGann. His work ethic, I suppose, it's common now, but back then I had never seen a man that worked so hard. I mean, he was in the office at 6 at night, and God only knows what time he left at. And then Alan Gaffney was such a technical coach that I learned so much of personally as a player, but also given that clarity and that detail is something that I take into my coaching myself.
Something I give you a bit of a big head here now, but as a coach myself, I would reference Mossy Lawler 4 or 5 times a season when I'm coaching players, particularly back 3 players, about how much you actually talked during a game. Very vocal player, talking to your wingers, talking to your 10, talking to your centres in front of you. Is there parts of your game, parts of other players' games that you've kind of taken? Do you reference players that you played with and go, look, watch this guy maybe do what this guy did? Is there any of those old players that you would say to young players, look up to?
It's all, look, Generation Z, the new kid on the block. He always wants to hear stories. They learn best through stories. They learn best through showing them videos of best practice. They want instant access to everything. So 100%. Giving them all stories about what happened in dressing rooms, giving them all stories about, oh, this player did that player used to do this, what worked for him, showing him videos of it, and then showing him videos of the next generation of players. So your All Blacks players, your top players in the world. You take something from everything, Don, but I suppose my own coaching philosophy is pretty simple. It's build the individual to better the collective. It's a simple phrase, but small things make the big things happen. I put so much emphasis on that. So even if you're talking about skill development, even if you're talking about team attack, even if you're talking about team culture, it's all about building that individual to create the house, or making sure that you're perfect in those small things. So ultimately the collective works and forms together.
So that to me jumps out as something you did as a player yourself without maybe even knowing it at the time. I remember we had a conversation before, we were talking about PlayStation, and you were like, PlayStation didn't have one, just did some sit-ups. You were always looking to improve yourself to become part of the collective. So that was your player type, was it? And you've taken that into coaching.
Yeah, exactly. Well, for me, coaching is a kind of a personal thing, and it's building that relationship with the player. So the more you can kind of, I suppose, personalize it and give them, I suppose, what works for you, but what also, I suppose, worked for teams that were so successful in the past. It's easier for them to understand. Plus, it's easier for you to get across, because I suppose you're not bullshitting them. You're talking about what you believe in and what you really trust. There's just far too many coaches out there at the minute that are just copycatting something that's going on elsewhere without actually processing it and taking what they like from it and making it their own. So I suppose to add on to that, I have a simple principle of 3 Ds, I call them. So it's what we can control together. So what we can control as individuals, what we can control as a coach together, and plus a team. It's dog, detail, and discipline. 3 simple, I suppose, again, traits that I probably brought through my own career, but 3 that I believe are massively important for a kid to progress to the next level. So if you just take dog for example, it's just about passion, resilience, and grit. And then how do you bring that to the pitch? Is like how do we perform? So I expect physicality when we go onto the pitch, a little bit of rootlessness, and I suppose detail speaks for itself. It's clarity. It's giving the players simple cues in relation to what they're expected of strategy wise and game plan wise, and that will then on the pitch we should see how we play. And then discipline it speaks for itself, but it's also about caring for the player and caring for each other as well. And how do we prepare for that? Prepare to be a pro, or prepare for a game.
Without asking you to break any omerta around current dressing rooms, if I was to go back and ask you dog, detail, discipline, who were the 3 players that stand out to you from your Munster days? Who was the biggest dog? Who was obsessed with the detail, and who would be that discipline guy?
Look, they all had it. I wouldn't be into naming names. You all know the usual suspects, but that team in 2006 and 2008, they all had it, and that's exactly where I suppose I get those 3 Ds from.
Let's talk about your playing days. I won't keep you around too much longer. Best player you would have played? I won't say with, because that's, again, you have to pick one out of a long career. Give me maybe 3 or 4 guys that you played against that were just a real test here, that you kind of thought coming off the field, wow, they're brilliant.
Look, respect for all players is a must in what you do. I heard you asking Mike Prendergast this question last week, so again, without naming the usual suspects, sorry, the best player I ever played with, and probably doesn't get any kudos or any high profile praise, was Jason Holland. The man was a genius on the pitch, and clearly you can see why he's so successful as a coach, leading the Hurricanes and what he is. The vision he had, the things he saw, the things he was able to converse to players around him in the moment, made him so special. And I suppose he's one of the players that I'd probably use when I'm telling my stories. I know he'd probably say it himself, if he did have any bit of pace, he would have been an All Black. But what he brought to Munster at that time was special, and probably didn't get any kudos for it.
In terms of playing against, you would have played a lot with him. In terms of playing against him, against players, who would be the best that you would have played against?
In my underage days, for Irish 20s and stuff, we played a few games against the All Blacks, and playing against the likes of Aaron Major. I mean, for me, playing in the centre, I was 80 kg at the time, and you're playing against guys that are 96 to 100 kg at 19 years of age. I mean, it was always going to be a test. So my size and my weight coming through the pro ranks, everyone was a test for me. So not naming names, but yeah, Aaron Major, like from where he was and where he went on to, and then from club games during the years, I mean, just playing against your local stalwarts. It was all, the rivalry back then was also fairly heated. So where I get dogged from is probably stems from there.
Absolutely, that Limerick bitterness, and long may it continue. Tell me a couple more before I finish up. In terms of Connacht and the position of the province and the depth that's coming through, we've seen some brilliant players come through this year, some good Champions Cup wins as well, based on a lot of academy graduates. I know Colm Tucker obviously is involved up there as well, involved with the Irish 20s now, Talent ID. You're looking after them as well. There's plenty of talent coming through from the west of Ireland. We're going to see more Irish internationals already in green with Connacht in the years to come.
Yeah, certainly hope so. This year has been really successful for us in that regards. Where it hasn't been officially announced yet, but 6 of our academy signed pro contracts this year. So really pleased with that. 3 backs, 3 forwards. But the growth from the whole province within, there's been massive steps and strides made. You mentioned Colm Tucker there, who has had a massive influence since he's come into the group. So when I started the job first, elite player development officer was not just academy, it was schools players as well, and lower, and it was a monster. And I think the RFU realised that fairly quickly and put the provincial talent managers, which is Colm Tucker's title, in place. And the job he has done since he come into the province is certainly one that has not gone unnoticed in Connacht. The players now from school levels up are coming into the academy really well skilled, really well developed, both on field and off field purposes. So we're in good stead at the moment. Yes.
Last one for me, would be remiss of me to have the Mossy Lawler from the Miracle Match on, and I'll ask you about that day, and also can you explain the gloves?
The gloves. No, I can't.
Tell me about the Miracle Match. That try in the corner, like, I mean, obviously forefront of your brain.
I can't explain the hair either.
Can you explain what it was like out in that pitch? I was there myself, but what was it like on the field? It was just one of those days, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It was just one of those days. It was incredible. I was a young kid at the time, just kind of broken into the team, and I suppose the try goes to Jason Holland. So, I mean, in 10 meters of space, the ability to see no one in the backfield and to tread a ball on the needle and land it where it needed to be was just, again, typifies the player he was, and yet got probably not as much credit as he deserved.
Well, I suppose that sums it up. That probably sums you up too. Bashful to the end. Mossy, thanks very much for your time. I appreciate it, and I'm sure everyone that's listened in from a coaching perspective has definitely learned something. I know I have. So thanks very much for sharing your thoughts on coaching. Appreciate it.
Really appreciate it, Dan. Yeah, stay safe. Thank you.
Cheers.